Well, good morning, everyone. And once again, welcome to another live this morning. Hope you're having a great start to your day. We sure appreciate you guys coming on with us. And let's say hello to a few friends here this morning. And hello to, let's see, Brahim. Easter Monday, you're number one. Andrea, part of the Trinity. Let's see if, Sandy, you made it on the top three from Fergus Falls, Minnesota. Janice, Brampton, Kevin, Oshawa, good morning to you. We appreciate you guys. Jude, Troy, New York, how are you? John from Elgin, Illinois. Andrea and Lorraine, British Columbia. Amber, New Jersey, how are you? Fran, Orangeville, good morning to you, Fran. Nick, from our staff. Georgie, Halifax, Nova Scotia. Diney, Woodstock. Trish, Kitchener. Arlene, good morning. Francis Marie, nice to have you on. Sharon from Kansas. Patricia from Florida. And Helga from Scarborough, Donna from Park Hill, Wendy from Markham, Linda, those Lindas from Uppsala, and Patricia saying hi to everyone, Bonnie from Little Britain, Danny, good morning, Joanne, Berks Falls, and Crystal, how are you? Wendy from Wasaga. Lisa Marie, Francis from Vaughan, good morning, and Chantal, Ottawa, bonjour, Victoria, Ottawa, Trish, good morning, Rosalinda in the clouds, Eva, good morning, Catherine, Parksville, British Columbia, Nativity, rainy, dark, cold, Brenda Bancroft, and Milika from Stouffville, Annette, Nouveau Brunswick, IT, Unionville, Mary, New Brunswick, and Rita, good morning. A couple more, guys, and then let's get Arlene, we love you. And Moses from California, sunny California. Maureen, good morning. Joanne, Wasaga. Or Washago. What's it? Sharon, Elaine, Dave. Okay. Crystal, Trish, and Margie from Kansas. We love you guys. Thanks for coming on, and Marlene. Okay, let's get to a few studies that I have flagged, and so we'll do a little bit of commenting on some of them. Here's one, gut probiotics, okay, a supplement of probiotics, okay, work as fast, listen to this, as prescription meds for improving daily mood. After 2 weeks, patients given antidepressants and another group probiotics, the probiotics worked as fast and as well in a study on mood depression. Leaky gut, leaky brain. I talk about that all the time, guys. You know that, the connection. And what I liked about this study is that they commented on how probiotics work with the mood. Now, guys, we've said this many a time. You make more serotonin, the feel-good hormone, in your gut than you do in your brain, right? You make more serotonin in your gut than you do in your brain. But the connection between the gut and the brain, how are you connected? Vagus nerve. your 10th cranial nerve. The connection, and guys, that's why when you get butterflies, you'll think about that. That's why when you're stressed, a lot of people get stressed over a period of time, and one of their biggest symptoms is nausea. They're nauseous. Why? Vagus nerve. Okay? The 10th cranial nerve, the connection, and they're showing that probiotics, of course, are everywhere, but the connection between the gut, the blood-gut barrier and the blood-brain barrier, it's almost identical. And it's probiotic. It's that friendly bacteria. And as long as you have a more good guys than bad guys in terms of your bacteria, you're always going to be around bacteria, guys. You don't want to wipe them out completely. You don't. Well, you couldn't, even if you tried. But a lot of people, they don't realize that I see people using those hand sanitizers and, guys, if it's on your skin, it's going to get into your bloodstream. And you're killing your friendly bacteria. And I'm not telling you not to wash your hands. Of course you should. But with soap and water. I don't like any of those chemicals going on your skin. Anywho, isn't that interesting that it took 2 weeks for this to work? But they did a group and a fair size, and they measured their moods, and it was unreal. 2 weeks of probiotics worked as fast. See, the balloons go off when I do that. I put 2 fingers up. Oh, that drives me crazy. Anyway, okay, so you got the memo, guys? You see the importance of probiotic? People think probiotics and they think of stomach problems and digestive problems. And that's true. No doubt about that. But I've always linked, and you guys know me, I link probiotics and the gut to any autoimmune, anything on the skin. Mental health. The link between your good and bad bacteria and your brain through the vagus nerve. And by the way, the second thing they said, okay, probiotics work, okay, by the mechanism of the vagus nerve in terms of your depression and that. And the second one, it makes a lot of sense, they said, you know what probiotics do too? They lower your inflammation. Probiotics are on your side. They're you. No, they're pro-you. They're on your side, guys. It's friendly bacteria. Now, is there a day goes by that I don't talk about probiotics? Yeah, well, listen to this one. Okay, I was reading an article this weekend. Fungal infections are mistaken for cancer. Now, we talked about this last week in terms of cancer. People ask me all the time because there's a lot of stuff on the internet, a lot of stuff on social media, a lot of stuff talking about parasites and cancer. Okay, and using anti-parasitical drugs to kill cancer. I'm not against that. But I've been more of a fungal guy for years. I've said it for years because when I did my thesis on chronic fatigue syndrome, okay, now you're going back 30 years, okay? I did my thesis for PhD in nutrition, clinical nutrition, and my thesis was on chronic fatigue syndrome. Okay, as a matter of fact, I got to see, I've got my thesis here. that I published into a book. Come on, where did I put it? I just had it the other day. I'll find it. Okay? I have my thesis on chronic fatigue syndrome. And I published it into a book. Let me see if I can find the book, but I wanted to get you my thesis. Okay, hold on a minute. Here it is, okay? This book was published, okay? Now you guys will see it because of on Facebook, the writing will be backwards, okay? But it's Steps to Fight Chronic Fatigue Syndrome for the Modern Woman, okay? Now the guy, the picture that you see on the guy here, that's me. It don't look like me. Who is this guy, okay? Dr. Martin has a PhD in clinical nutrition and is the author of many articles on nutrition, okay? He is involved in several research projects with the nutrient pine bark extract and has been interviewed on many television and radio shows on nutritional subjects, okay? That's a long time ago. But I brought this book out, okay, on my thesis, and I published it, and we sold, I'm going to say almost 50,000 copies of this in English and French, okay, because the French one became this one here. I think this is the second edition, okay, La fibromyalgie et le syndrome de la fatigue chronique, okay? Again, this was published by Québécois in French, and anyway, okay, that's a long time ago. I sort of forget stuff like that, and I unpacked a couple of these books. But getting back to fungus, okay? So what I said in these books, okay, what I said in my thesis, that a big problem with chronic fatigue was leaky gut. Now you got to remember, you're going back 30 years, and leaky gut, very few people talked about it. But I showed the connection at the time. In my, what we did at that time was a 500 patient study, okay? And it wasn't double blind or anything like that. It was a thesis on chronic fatigue. And what I showed was the connection between leaky gut and yeast, fungus. And one of the common denominators in these 500 patients that were officially diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, not me, I hadn't done it, okay? I hadn't given them that diagnosis. A physician had given them the diagnosis of chronic fatigue and then said, well, good luck with that. I don't know what to do about it. And that's the truth, okay? But, you know, in those days, they didn't know what to call it. Yuppie flu, Epstein-Barr, they tested for Epstein-Barr virus, you know, but 50-60% of the population have the Epstein-Barr and they don't have any symptoms. It's almost like getting the herpes virus. Who doesn't have that? But doesn't mean you're going to get any symptoms of it, because it just usually lays dormant. I wasn't big on the virus theory. I was big on the fungal theory. And by the way, nobody was talking about it. But what we found out in the 500 patient questionnaire was that almost 90-something%, it was over that, 95, I think, or I'd have to go and actually reread my book. It's been so many years. Had a long history of antibiotics. Okay, so that's how many years ago, guys, I was talking about a fungus. And I was interviewed, Just looking at my books again, okay? Kind of funny this morning. It's because I unpacked my books, okay? And I went through them. And this is a book by Doug Kaufman, okay? Again, you're seeing it upside down, but the fungal link. I was interviewed by him in Dallas, Texas. What year? Yeah. In the 90s. Okay. I can't remember exactly what year it was. But obviously it was after I wrote this book on chronic fatigue. And he was fascinated with my link because he was huge. This guy was very big on fungal, mold, and the diseases associated with it. And actually, he had a guy on there, a Dr. Simoninci, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, who was a pathologist out of Italy who talked about all cancers had fungal origins. He saw yeast on pathology. Now you're hearing a lot about parasites. And it's all right, because at the end of the day, and what this article was saying is that let me read it to you. Fungal infections are mistaken for cancer. In the 1950s, Johns Hopkins Medical School saw tumors and they thought fungus back in those days. And that all got buried. Okay? But at Johns Hopkins, because they were studying under Walter Wilson, got to read my own writing. He suggested that massive fungal infections merely look like cancer. But Dr. Simoninci, probably influenced big time by this Dr. Wilson, started looking at slides, looking at pathology. He was a pathologist and oncologist in Italy, and said, all those cancers the tumors have yeast. They have a fungus, and that's why they grow. And we already know, guys, we already know this. There's no dispute about this, that sugar feeds cancer. Sugar feeds cancer. And one of the reasons, glucose, cancer cells have 10 times more receptors for glucose than an ordinary cell. Is that because they're fungal based? Some people think so. And in chronic fatigue, I talked about the leaky gut in those days. Leaky gut, leaky brain. They had brain fog. They had adrenal exhaustion. That's what I talked about. But the adrenals got exhausted. Stress can come from different things. Because people think of stress, they think of, they're stressed out. And you get anxiety. But your body doesn't know the difference between a stress of fight or flight, somebody scaring you, and you want to run or punch them, fight or flight, or even the environment can stress you out over a period of time. All the chemicals, I talked about that back in the 1980s. The environment. We live in a toxic soup. Heavy metals, I used to test for heavy metals in my office. People were full of heavy metals. Mercury, lead, cadmium, aluminum. Where did they get all that stuff? You look at autopsies in the, studies on Parkinson's. Full of heavy metal. The brain is fully... How do heavy metals get into the brain? How do they get into your tissue? The Trojan horse. The Trojan horse. Yeast. Fungus. It travels. It travels. And yeast should, look, you get a little bit of yeast in your gut. Everybody has a little bit of yeast in their gut. Okay? That's all right. As long as it doesn't get into your bloodstream. Candida, fungal, it doesn't belong in your bloodstream. That's how it, and then fungus is a carrier. It can carry your heavy metals. Okay? It can carry your heavy metals. So that's really, really important that you know that. And so when I hear these studies, fungal infections mistaken for cancer, when I read gut probiotics work as fast as prescription meds for improving mood, it's that gut. It's the gut. It's your bacteria. Okay? Okay. Let me see if we can hit a few others here. Okay, let's talk about sun, steak, and steel. Okay, we're going to talk sun, steak, and steel this morning. Okay, now remember, if you didn't get our emails, our book, Sun, Steak, and Steel, is 15% off right now. Okay, that makes a great gift, guys. If you want people to understand what you're doing, how you're taking care of your health. And remember, in the book, Sun, Steak, and Steel, Sleep is the 30-day reset. Okay? The program is in there. How to do it. What to do. Why to do it. You know how I did it? You know how I wrote that chapter on the book, in the book, Sun, Steak, and Steel, on the 30-day reset? You know how I wrote that book? Questions, Q&A. I pretended that we were doing our Friday Q&A. And what questions would they ask me about the reset? And I answered, 30-something questions in the book. Why? Okay? I got a little great-granddaughter, okay? And she's in the why stage. Anything you say, she goes, why? Okay? But that's not a bad thing. When you're into sickness and medicine, why? Okay? Why is that happening? Okay? And one of the biggest things in chronic fatigue was, why? Antibiotics, the greatest discovery of the 20th century, has become the curse of the 21st. I'm telling you, antibiotics are wonderful things. They can save your life. There's no medication that has saved as many lives as antibiotics. But, and there's a big but here, but the problem is the side effects. It disrupts the microbiome. So my friend, I will double down, triple down, quadruple down on this every time I talk about it. If you're not taking a probiotic, you're making a mistake. We just live in a world. We live in a world that it's a supplement that you need to take. And, you eat a yogurt. I use this all the time. You'd have to eat 16,000 yogurts to get one. Well, you wouldn't even get one capsule. You'd get 50 billion bacteria if you ate 16,000 4-ounce yogurts. But you wouldn't get a broad spectrum probiotic. And that's, you guys know me. I talk about that all the time. You need broad spectrum because you need different strains of bacteria do different things. Guys, I've been talking about that since this. Look at the guy on the thing. You can't even recognize him. Who is he? That doesn't even look like me. But it's me. Okay. Okay, so fungal infections mistaken for cancer. We talked about gut probiotics. They work as fast as prescription meds. You know what? Sun, steak, and steel. Here's one on the sun. Low vitamin D, cognitive decline, 19 times more likely. Low levels of vitamin D. And guys, it's worth it to you. I'm telling you, it's worth it. Find out what your vitamin D levels are. It's a test that you can take. The next time you're at a doctor, whatever, in the United States, you can order your own blood work. Get your vitamin D levels done and get your B12 levels done. I tell you, those two biomarkers are essential. And get your vitamin D levels done and get your B12 levels done. They are, I talk about that in the book, Sun, Steak, and Steel. Cognitive decline, listen to this, 19 times more likely with low vitamin D levels. Hot off the press, guys. Vitamin D and the brain. Vitamin D, every cell in your body, guys, has antennas looking for the sun. The best way to get vitamin D, of course, is the sun. Of course it is. Okay? But let's face it. Even this time of the year, you're not getting enough sun unless you live in Florida or Arizona. Everywhere else, you should be still supplementing with vitamin D. And if you listened to my radio show 30 years ago, you would say, well, Dr. Martin, you've always said that. Yeah, I've always said that. I haven't changed at all on vitamin D. I talked about the sun when people were telling you to stay out of the sun. I said, that's silly. Why are you staying out of the sun? When do you feel better? Oh, in the sun. When is it, when do you sleep better? Oh, when I get sun. Yeah. Hello? And the boogeyman who made us scared of the sun was just that. It's fake. Okay? There's no boogeyman. But medicine they pretend there's boogeymans. The sun, butter, cholesterol, steak, the boogeyman. Right? They're not right about that. About any of it. Okay, low vitamin D, cognitive decline, 19 times more likely. 4 times the risk of Alzheimer's with low vitamin D. Guys, make an investment in your health and find out what your vitamin D levels are. And get my book, Sun, Steak, and Steel, and I tell you where your vitamin D levels and your B12 levels should be at. I tell you there. You can use it as a reference. And what to shoot for. Guys, it's worth it. If your doctor cooperates, well, get your doctor to order. But guys, I'm telling you, it's an investment I think you should make. 100%. I know what my vitamin D levels are, and I know what my B12 levels are. Okay? And there's nobody that eats more steak than me to get my B12 and vitamin D. Of course, I take 10,000 IUs a day. Okay? Now, sun, we talked about it. Steak, okay? Let me read to you this study and we'll finish with that today. Okay, yeah. Here it is. Study of New Zealand vegans. Okay? They did a study on vegans in New Zealand. Okay? And veganism, guys, is like a cult. Okay? They're not right. They're wrong. And they have a lot of zeal. but they're wrong. They're not right. And I never recommend anyone be a vegan. As a matter of fact, I never recommend anyone being a vegetarian. I just don't do it. If you do it, you need to supplement. And here's one in New Zealand where they studied vegans in New Zealand, and they've come up short. Two main ones they're short in: L-lysine and L-leucine. Two amino acids that they're short. I'm telling you, anyway, I could go into all the 5 C's that they're short in. Okay? But they measured this, and they were short in 2, and they were short in L-lysine. Why is lysine important, guys? Okay? L-lysine. Very antiviral. Very important for your immune system. As important as vitamin A. Well, they go together. You know me and vitamin A, guys. Eat your steak. Why? Vitamin A. Vitamin A isn't found in the plant kingdom. Neither is L-lysine. That's your immune system. Lysine is very antiviral, very anti-cancer. Leucine. What is leucine? Building muscle. Muscle synthesis. Okay? That study showed they're deficient. They're missing. So if you know anyone that is a vegan or a vegetarian, make sure they're taking B12, different amino acids, CoQ10, carnosine, carnitine. Okay? And they're missing. They're short. They don't get enough. And if they really study, they'll find out. Okay? And God loved them, but they're wrong. God loved them, but they're wrong. Okay? The Apostle Paul said it's zeal without knowledge. Okay? They have a zeal, but it's without knowledge. It's not right. It's not true. Okay. Okay, guys, let's leave it there today. Thank you for coming on today and following us today, and we appreciate it. Remember, 15% off. I just saw it myself. Off Sun Steak and Steel. Okay, we got a new edition out, and you got to get it. Okay, we love you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.